Well, welcome back to Cool Times Podcast, where we talk all things cool about the cold storage construction industry. And today we have a very diversified guest, if you will. He's got his hands in many things, man. He's flexing his muscles, if you know what I mean.
Oh, wow. Wait, hold on.
Oh, God. Already, I didn't even do the intro yet.
It doesn't matter.
I love it. That's good. This is good. This is good. We got the president of FlexSpace and the co-founder of FlexCold. This podcast, my friend, is something that everyone's been waiting for. Our good friend, Todd Jessup. What's up, my friend?
Hello. How are you guys?
We're good. Thanks for being with us today.
We're good. I'm glad your people got with our people. We could finally do this.
That's right. Thanks for having me. I'm going to take a page out of Lee Corso's playbook.
Oh, damn. Yeah. That's a nice hat you got there. For all of our listeners, well, thank you for actually stopping by and listen to Cool Times today.
Yes.
You can listen to us on the Apple Podcast app, and also you can watch this on YouTube. So they will get to see what you just did. And you just put on a bright, brand new branded Bills Freeze construction hat. Todd, that was pretty sick, dude.
Nice swag.
I like that, man. You like your hat?
I do. Wears great. My daughter tried to take it off of me, you know?
We'll get you. We'll get you another one. They're a hot ticket item, man. Jen and I have had great feedback. We buy a lot of hats, and we finally came across branded bills, and we started doing all the branded bill stuff. And then sure enough, everyone else, man, in our industry started freaking pumping out the branded bills hats. And I'm like, man, I should be getting royalty from this.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, that's what I was going to ask for, is the royalty when the panels start going up, you know?
There you go. Yeah. Hey, man, panels are, when this thing airs, man, panels will be in the air. All right.
Right.
They will be in the air. Well, Todd, for all of our audience that might not know who you are, I mean, you're already a legend in their industry and growing in popularity very fast. Tell everyone who you are, what you do. Tell us who Todd is.
Thanks for having me again. Appreciate the invite, and great to be with you guys and be cool on the Cool Times podcast here.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So again, Todd Jessup. I've been in the food supply chain really my entire career. Shortly after getting out of school, and I've really grown to love the industry. It's a very dynamic, opportunistic industry that has seen a lot of opportunity to really dig into technology and better practices and just ways to invest in different areas that we've seen, and we see more opportunities in front of us as well. But nonetheless, I started FlexSpace about 2014. So
was it that long ago?
I know, time flies.
Get out of here. Was it really? Wow. Okay.
About 10 years ago, and it was really to drive efficiencies. I really found some technology out of Europe that was really prevalent all over the world and underutilized or not used at all throughout the US. And so sort of introduced and pioneered that product into the US, which is simply mobile racking. But it's a product that really was applicable, especially in cold storage space, where costs of these facilities are extremely expensive. Everybody's looking to be flexible and nimble and able to adapt to customer changes and needs. So the selectivity, the access, the speed, as well as what it would do to drive the overall economics of the project and make the return on investment faster. It just checked a lot of boxes and was something that was a little ahead of the time. But now, as we turn the page and we look at sort of inflation, what we've realized, the cost of these facilities have just exponentially gone up. Now we've got capital market issues, so the cost of money to basically invest in these facilities. So you kind of stack inflation on top of the capital market issues, and it's really making it hard to pencil some of the way we always did it in the past. So we've enjoyed a run at that. I would say about 2018, 2019, I started realizing that the product really wasn't just the design of the interior to densify and provide better access and efficiencies from a labor standpoint. But the product was really, we had aging facilities that, 35, 40 years old, and as the buildings are going taller, and there's power suppression and refrigeration. And so there was a lot of modernized things that were happening outside of just what we were doing from a densification standpoint that warranted the need to invest and update the infrastructure. So, I look at it as sort of the certificate of occupancy was now really the product, as opposed to the mobile inside the box, really trying to help us keep up with population growth, keeping up with the trend of frozen food growth, looking at, replacing some of the old infrastructure that really couldn't provide the services or the value to the customers. Perhaps they weren't even in the right logistical location. A lot of these facilities were built sort of next to their cousins' farm that processed, hops or what have you. And so, it's kind of 35, 40 years ago, things were done a lot differently than they are now. So we're really looking at it, there's this real estate, transaction where why do you put a facility where you put it? Who's the customers that are going to be in there?
Sure.
And there's that real estate side. Then you have that operational piece, that what are those services that you're going to offer those customers that are in that logistics crossroads? And then you have obviously the technology piece of like, how can you leverage technology to make it faster, cheaper, more efficient, less labor, less cost. So we really focus on that cost per unit in every decision we make.
Wow.
That's crazy. I got to see the first FlexSpace mobile racking at RLS in Sturbridge.
Yes.
I got to see it, and I was walking the job, and the guy's like, "Hey, check this out. This is pretty cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know what this is. I never got to see it operate." And dude, it's crazy. Like the controls and electronics. And he's like, if I need to get into aisle 8, boop, boop. And all of a sudden it just,
so cool.
Everything's censored and safe. Right. So if something's in the way, the rack won't move, but man, it just opens up. It's like, just boom, there you go. Dude, it's crazy.
It was cool to see.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
So what's the added, I'm going to get real nerdy with you, but so let's just say you have a 50,000 square foot freezer, right?
Yeah.
If I have a normal racking system in there, if we put in a FlexSpace system, like how much more storage capacity can you gain from using your product versus a standard rack system?
Yeah. I mean, every building, shape, size, can be a little different, but just sort of spitballing, say 50% more product.
Wow.
So
that's a huge value add.
Well, think about if you have to build that much more of a building to get that space,
you need that much
the money
more.
you could save on construction and the land or whatever, right?
Yes.
Refrigeration.
Yeah, exactly. There's been a lot of education that, I love to learn. So, I mean, I've learned a lot. You mentioned RLS Logistics, sort of I know it was RLS partners, Corex.
Corex now, yeah.
Tony Leo, the late Tony Leo, was a good friend and probably one of the first early movers that became an incredible friend, as well as partner in the industry. And I'm sure you guys can attest to sort of those people that sort of helped get you off the ground and going. We really together locked arms to really help understand. Because at that point, when you just sell a product, you really don't understand the benefits to the operations, but you want to learn what is the value proposition. What is it you're offering? And so through that effort, we really were able to refine and get down to some really good stats on, not looking at the rack price versus the building price. And everybody looks at things kind of in silos. Really at the end of the day, the entire development is all about how many pallet positions can you get and what's your cost per pallet.
Yep. That's it at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yep. Nothing else matters. And so there's several different ways to increase your density. There's different ways to do that, that ultimately help decrease your cost per pallet. But then you start playing a game of selectivity and
what about your operational costs though too?
There you go. So it's always been in the industry with conventional facilities backing. You really had these competing forces. You either had density or you had selectivity, and those have always been the competing forces. That you either erred on one side or the other at the expense of the other, right? So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, right? And so with the mobile racking, you got the single select. So you're literally one touch in the building, one touch out of the building. Everything's easy to inventory. Everything's face on the aisle. So there's a tremendous amount of benefits operationally, but then you turn around and look at it from an economic standpoint, arguably because of the selectivity, you're not really losing those underutilized spaces, or the occupancy rates can push much higher because you have access to every single location versus storing things in front of things that are not alike or different date codes, or eventually, the world's not perfect and it doesn't work in perfect pairs. So
sure.
That's where you're really able to drive that occupancy rate. And so ultimately it's revenue optimization, it's OpEx, optimization. It's just trying to look at the front end real estate transaction of how do you drive your cost per pallet down. And then on the OpEx side, if you're getting 50% more revenue on this 50,000 square foot building, you're amortizing your costs over 50% more units. Well, guess what your margins do? They exponentially increase, right?
Sure. Of course they do. What did you do before this? So before FlexSpace, you've been doing this a long time. What's your background?
I started off initially in the early days. I was compartmentalizing the trailers with divider walls inside the reefer trucks.
Okay.
A lot with the Walmart, the Targets, the super, McLean's, a lot of the big wholesale grocers and such. So that's where it kind of started, and working with the manufacturer that ultimately we were looking at sort of how do we, also do the same inside the warehouse. And so kind of banana rooms, tomato rooms, things like that. So you kind of get into the panels and such. So from that, we started getting in with the GCCA and the IRW and SEBA and some of those organizations.
Been seeing you around a long time, Todd.
I feel like I've been around a long time, but nonetheless, through that, I was able to meet, a lot of great people. And sort of the foundation of everything is people do business with people. And so once you find that you're relatable with people are relatable to you, and you kind of can find that niche of how you're able to drive value and create, opportunity for others and yourself. And, that's what I found here and in this industry. And so I stuck with it and just have built a lot of great friendships outside of sort of the business side. So, therefore, it's work, but it doesn't feel like work. You're having fun, you're having fun just enjoying what you do and who you do it with.
And when you first came out with FlexSpace, because obviously this is new, it's innovative, it's exciting about where it can take the industry. Were there people who were resistant? Was there resistance to it at all? Or did people eat it up and they were like, oh my gosh, I love this, I need to have it?
Yeah, there's still resistance. So the only way I can equate this journey to tell you is it's the topic of technology. And you have your early movers, and then you have the people that are falling right behind. They don't want to be the first, but they're following right behind. And you have the people that just dig in their heels and will forever and always argue to the day they die that it's snake oil, and that is to this day. It's almost like you just sit there and see exactly what's happening. It was back to the Tony Leo and, some of the guys that have been kind of stood cold storage and have been doing ASR since the 80s. It's they were these early movers. They took risks to get a competitive edge, right? And there's people that fell in right behind those guys. And then there's still people to this day just digging on their heels. And I don't know how I don't know how you make it work, with the way these buildings cost today. And
Yeah.
the scariest thing is you're signing 15-year leases, or you've got these notes, right?
Yes.
And it's kind of like, what happens if somebody moves to the neighborhood?
Sure.
Well, and there's been so much change and so much expansion of our industry that even just like in these last few years, that to me, if you're following along with that, it makes sense to have something that's adding more value to your building.
Oh, yeah.
So that is sort of what prompted like going to that next step, is like the frustration of seeing projects come and go back to the old school way. And, you sit there, you do this layout, and you're sitting there talking to them about the money you can save and like the return on investment. You're really getting into the economics to give them a competitive edge. And it was just time and time again, it was just another one bites the dust, And so that was kind of that burning my belly to like, man, I mean, if we can't do this, then it's like we've got to go bigger and get away from the product selling the product to people. We've got to like deliver new facilities that are state of the art that really drive value. And so now it's like, it's just one layer. It's just one layer of the cake is the racks. Now, it's refrigeration and power and labor, and you got all these things. So, I mean, everywhere you see it, it's like, all right, let's do time studies. Okay, where are we saving money, and how do we continue to build it faster, cheaper, and better? And it's been a great journey, and we've learned a lot. And there's a lot more for us to continue on with.
Yeah, that's wild, because we don't see it as much as you see it, but we get it all the time. Like, hey, let's do a 6-inch exterior IMP panel here, instead of a 5. But how much money does a 5 save me? And what's the cost of a 5 versus 6 over the course of how many years with energy loss? It's like, we get those questions all the time. I mean, look at refrigeration. Should we do an ammonia, or should we do a packaged Freon system? And what's the difference, and what's the cost, and, operational cost, right? Like, what does that look like? These are all these tiny little things that you can bundle together, like you said, to kind of, put out an ROI of what that looks like. And we're going to get into a little bit of FlexCold and probably your dealings with some of that stuff, because you have to make some of those decisions now from a big picture. So we can talk about that later too. But yeah, it's a lot to think about. But I mean, the FlexSpace product itself is incredible. When I saw it, you see it at SEBA, you see it at GC, you see it because you're presenting there and you're showing off your goods, right? But when you get to walk it and see it live and how it works, it's something you have to see. And it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, the big thing is it's not a lot of flashing bells and whistles and shiny objects.
You have a lot of cool lights, man, right?
You do. You really do.
Yeah, it's practical.
Correct.
It's practical. And like, we have a labor crisis. We've had a labor crisis, for this been building for a while. But it's like, you jumping straight to ASRS in some ways, and in some areas is good, but it's like, when you automate, you're automating redundant patterns and things. It's like, in this case, it's something for the mobile racking just provides a solution, and through that densification, you're freeing up cash to the bottom line.
Sure.
And then you reinvest in the employees. You just back to the conventional warehouse. It's like, as you're getting squeezed on those margins, you're trying to take that off of your payroll expense, and eventually people are going to find a different job that's not going to be inside of a freezer, because they can make more money elsewhere. And so how are you thinking about, being able to be smarter and, sort of shift the paradigm to how things have always been done, to really free up cash to pay people and invest in the business?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Well, so You shared a little bit about like the start of the development and the launch of FlexCold, like came, I think, from some frustrations of people not understanding like, hey, this is going to be beneficial. It's going to save money. Like this is something you want to use. Tell us
FlexSpace.
FlexSpace. Yeah, but I want to learn about the development and launch of FlexCold.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Like he mentioned a little bit about it, but
Yeah.
I think it would be good to learn kind of.
I agree.
More about that, don't you?
Yeah, I think everyone who's listening wants to know about the development and launch of FlexCold.
Yeah, so we were actually brought in by a design builder to promote on a project in Jacksonville, Florida, mobile rack. They had land constraints. The building was a bit of a, it was a weird shape. So there was a lot going on. They were trying to build cold storage and saw the opportunity to build cold storage. So we were just brought in to sell mobile racks to help make use of that smaller piece of land that those guys had.
Okay.
And basically be able to help drive the business case behind it. So as we were selling mobile racks, which they totally bought into and were on board with seeing the advantages and how it would ultimately relate to them being able to develop this piece of property, they had capital constraints. And we had seen this going on with a lot of our customers that, while there was a lot of consolidation in the industry, a lot of the customers that were still out there that weren't selling and they weren't growing as rapidly as you would think, one would do if you had an established business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's consolidation, then there's very few people left to compete with, so you just grow. So ultimately, it was capital constraints to be able to build these buildings. So when we were trying to sell the mobile rack job in Jacksonville, we had already started down the road of looking to build out a real estate investment development platform that would take, from mobile rack to sort of the entire facility. So looking at getting certificate of occupancy of a facility that's modern. So we were looking to invest into the real estate building while we were trying to sell the rack. So ultimately we sell the racks, we take some of the profits and reinvest it right back into the customer to help them get the building off the ground and operate. So we were going to be a better partner, which is what the mission really was. Instead of just looking at one facet of helping somebody, how do we provide more value? So that's where we kind of started down the road and really getting into the seat of the real estate, investment development, raising capital to help stand this building up. Along the way, we got that deal done to start that building. And the gentleman that was going to run that as the president passed away 2 weeks after we capitalized the building.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So suddenly we were front and center of, now we got to operate this thing, we're going to be working on this. So, it's, we basically pivoted and started hiring seasoned operations folks that understood how to operate the buildings and put a team together. No startup is a fairy tale, wedding by any stretch, but we ultimately, the whole journey has been overcoming adversity.
Sure.
Challenges head on. And so from the very early days of people being resistant to new technology and mobile racking to how do we basically, the whole cold storage world is consolidating. How do we continue to invest back into the customers that are sticking around to help them be successful? So it goes from trying to give them a competitive edge to helping them understand real estate finance and development to get that, and then standing up an operating business to actually now serve, food processors, that are in the area of Jacksonville and, wherever FlexCold goes beyond. So that's kind of the real short version of how we've ended up going from just, sort of a, technology or integrator type, business to, looking at it as, there's more to it than just looking at that one piece to the puzzle. And then it's all about driving value to the operating business.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's exciting stuff, my friend.
It is.
So how many FlexCold locations are there right now?
We have the one location in Jacksonville, which We opened just over a year ago. So we're
Congrats.
14 months into operations. They are doing a phenomenal job. We've got a great team in place.
Awesome.
So we're really doing good. We're under construction on phase 2. So as soon as we sort of turned on the refrigeration and started opening up doors, we filled it up pretty quickly, and realized the time was now to take advantage of the additional land that we had been able to purchase. And so we were under construction now in phase 2, and should be opening next summer.
Awesome. Not that I want to dangle carrots in front of the entire audience that's probably, salivating at the mouth, but how many of these buildings you want to build in the next 5 years?
Oh man. I mean, we were really thinking if we could get 3 to 5 done, there would be, 3-5 year span. It would be great. I mean, the recent times with the capital markets, I think is so we're, there again, we're a team of, we're a team of thinkers to overcome adversity.
Sure.
So we're actively engaging that, as I know everyone is. We have 2 more developments that are ready to go. We may be able to get those underway in the coming months.
That's awesome. What kind of racking are you using?
It's just
wow.
What kind of racking are you gonna put in there?
We're going back to 4 stacking.
There you go. Yeah, I've been in some old cold storage buildings, Todd, during my I got in the industry in like 2005, end of 2005. And when I was calling on some of these old cold storage plants out in Northwest, like Washington, Portland, that area, Oregon, like, dude, there's some old cold storage warehouses out there, man, with just concrete brick walls and some cork on the wall. I mean, dude, there's some old buildings out there, man. And they're still operational.
That's what I was getting ready to say. It's like, it's crazy. I mean, they're operational and most of them are full because it's just the demand is there and you just don't have space. It's something I go back to some of the guys that are here with us that are in the real estate area. They had a career in a lot of the multifamily apartments, but it's kind of back to the boom of apartment building, that started out, I think 2004 or 5, something like that. And they would just, build apartments everywhere, anywhere they could find. And then it went into student housing and they're sort of densifying, right? How many more beds and units can you get in that property?
Crazy.
The same concept, ours is just pallets, right? It's just same idea. So it's, but you go back to that and it's like, it was this boom. And I remember talking to a good friend that was within that business, a developer in the business. And I said, man, these guys, somebody's going to end up choking on all these apartments. And he said, they're not even keeping up. As many as are being built, they're not even keep up with the demand.
They're not.
So I do relate it back to cold storage. The same way, the population growth and the need for frozen space is growing at such a rapid rate.
Totally. I mean, look at buy versus rent, right? I mean, just think housing market. Houses are so expensive today. I look at the kids getting out of college, how are they going to afford a $750,000 to $1 million house out of school, right? Like you don't buy, they're renting and they're renting for a long time and maybe forever. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just, you look at it the same way. Like you look at all these food companies, right? Like I'm sure they would love to have their own cold storage, but it doesn't make sense for them financially to build a huge, 3PL refrigerated warehouse to store all their product in because they maybe have small manufacturing plants all over the US and they need space here, and here, it's pretty wild. I mean, the industry's growing.
Yeah. And it's like, if you're manufacturing product, food or whatever the case is, I mean, every business, no matter how big or small you are, everybody's got the same as wish list of what you want to invest or buy or invest money in, right? And you're always trying to prioritize what it is. Well, I mean, if you're manufacturing product, that's how you make money, is making product. Then to go build a business to store it, you're taking money out of what you do well and what you're focused at.
Exactly. You're going to want to recap. Yeah. you're going to want to put your capital back in the product and
Exactly.
make a new product or reinvent the product or change your packaging, whatever the case is.
Totally.
But yeah, it's where do you see the cold storage demand for space from now? Say, we're rolling up on the end of 2023. Where do you see it the next 3 to 5 years in regards to like growth? Do you see it leveling off, dying down, still a constant increase? What's your gut?
I mean, really the question is like, I'm not saying you take the old core cold storage facility that you mentioned earlier. I don't know that you totally take that offline, but you definitely probably repurpose it. But it kind of gets to a conversation of like, how old is too old to operate a building as a warehouse?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Is it 15 years? Is it 30 years? Is it 60 years? I don't know the number per se right now, but what is that age? Because at some point it's cost prohibitive and you can't even really do, provide the services and maintain maintenance and, invest. I mean, it just becomes a losing game. So that first and foremost, I look at it as like, you got one thing is you're updating infrastructure. So how do you take, if the average age is 35 or 40 years old on these facilities across USA, how do you get that average age to be 15, 12, 8, whatever the case is? So there's the replacement of existing product. Mm-hmm. That's step one. Step two is then, now what are you looking at from a population growth, as well as trends of consumer buying? It's just, how much demand is there for frozen food that currently, isn't even really in the market because there's no place to store it. So it's like, how much more demand is there? And that's what I also don't know is exactly, are we at a 20% deficit, or are we at 15% deficit, or something larger or smaller? So, but between those two, I do think, along with, I think the logistics play is really like, where does this facility need to be and why? I mean, there's a lot of, we talk about, there's a lot of driver shortages. Well, there's drivers driving thousands of miles taking product places for a couple of reasons. One is the services that they need for that product are thousands of miles away, and then they bring it thousands of miles back. So it's completely inefficient. Or the issue is it's a service company that they can rely on. The processor relies on those guys to execute the work and scope of work that they need. So they that's worth the miles and miles to drive. So you kind of get back to the whole logistics map of like, we got a driver shortage, like a labor shortage, right? But we're really inefficient and not doing things well. I mean, if you need a facility that has XYZ services, then that XYZ services needs to be either right there where that processor is, or where all that destination of the product is going to go, maybe out of a port, or maybe into a client of theirs to be further processed.
Sure.
Or whatever the logistics game is.
Yeah. How do you feel about AI in regards to, well, what do you think of AI, and what do you think of AI is going to do to our industry?
Yeah, it's a lot smarter than I am.
What do you think of them robots?
Yeah. It's
self-driving semi trucks, right? The Tesla truck, all these things, like, right? That could change everything.
We were actually working through, for the FlexCold business, values, mission statements, and such last week. And so everybody's throwing out words, meanings, and things like that. And they dropped that stuff in AI, and oh my God, the mission statements and things that were coming out would have taken years to for us in that room to like agree on or engineer. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. That stuff is really crazy. So, but look, I think getting back to really answer your question is, technology today is so much further advanced than it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Think about the jobs that are now done, kind of use Ford Motor Company, right? You look at the old assembly line of building, Model Ts or what have you. and you look at kind of like what a production line looks like today, right?
Yep.
But yeah, we're at the greatest job deficiency. Like the labor deficiency is like at an all-time high. So my gut is, it's like you can't outpace with technology. You can't outpace the problem of just not having enough of the right people to do the type of work that needs to be done. So it's leading to further educating people, and it's leading to, you know, better jobs of like getting people, instead of, you know, kind of like, you know, coining a machine or whatever, just over and over and over again, right? You're now like, somebody's learning something, they're challenged, they can grow, and they can be in a career to be better. And it's all positive things. We have to embrace technology. It leads us to a much more dynamic and fruitful future than trying to dig our heels into like the way we've always done it. And you got to be a part of the solution and not part of the problem, right?
Totally. I have a question about the FlexSpace product that probably we have a listener probably sitting there behind the wheel of their car being like, man, ask this question. Like, all right, let's say we want to use your FlexSpace mobile racking system. You know, how do we buy it? What's the lead time? Like, is there a design phase? Like, is there a drawing process, shop drawing process, like, you know, start to finish, and then like total lead time to get the product, you know, built and shipped? What's all that?
Yeah. So we want to be a part of the team out of the gates. Like, you know,
I feel you, Todd. Yeah, I feel you.
I know. You know, like, it's amazing how many poker players we got. You know.
Yeah.
But it's like we want to be in there from the beginning, because really what you want to do is design your process first, and then you build the building around the process.
Got it.
It's like where columns go, where panels go, where doors are placed. You know,
makes sense.
You know exactly where the underfloor pits, you know, heat pits are. I mean, all of that stuff is all really designed around, you know, what the purpose of the building is to store units. And if you're thinking about the units at the end of the project instead of at the front of the project, you're probably going to lose easy layup units. I mean, just by moving something a little bit here or there. I mean, you guys can all relate to going into the Walgreens or what have you, or the CVS, and you're kind of walking around the pole in the aisle, and you're like, you know, you're kind of like, that's odd.
Why is there a pole in front of my hair gel?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody fights for that shelf space, and then they get stuck on it, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, that's kind of like, it's, if you fail to plan, you can plan to fail kind of thing, right?
Totally.
It really, like, get the team together, like put this thing, what's the objective? How many pallets? Who's your customer? Like, are you bringing in ice cream? Are you bringing in chicken? Is the chicken fresh? Is the chicken frozen? Is it export? Is it import? Are you staging USDA, FDA? It's like case picking, you know, boxing, X-raying, thawing and slacking. I mean, what the heck are you doing? And you got to know that.
Yeah, it's kind of essential.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta know what is the customer going to do. Otherwise, it's going to be just like that store that's built, and you got a column dead smack of the hair gel. You know, it's like you can't. You know,
I know you feel me on that. You know, I know you feel me on that.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. I obviously didn't read the label right. You know.
No, well, you're using the wrong stuff, bro.
Behind the damn column, it was hair removal, you know?
Man.
I liked it.
The column was in the way. I grabbed the wrong stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is actually epic.
Oh my gosh. It's really funny.
That's pretty good. So by the time you're in early and design it all and move forward and, you know, hit the green button because it's laid out in design, that's enough time for you guys to get this thing whipped up and shipped.
Right. So then, you know,
you got to wait for the panel people to put panels on the wall.
Yes.
They're so slow.
They are.
You know, 150 feet of panel a day is not enough for people anymore, and blah, blah, blah. I feel it.
Yeah. Luckily, we hadn't heard as many panels. It's been like, where's the roof and where's the where's the electrical and where's,
where's my switch gear at?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get that all the time.
I mean, timing wise, I mean, like, we really need to be released, I'd say like 5 months before the building's kind of dried in.
Got it.
So it's literally about when shovels hit the dirt and start moving. You kind of got, let's say it's a 12-month project timeline. You kind of got 5-6 months of site work and going vertical to get it dried in, and then the last 5 months or so to kind of do all the finishing up interiors and startups and all that good stuff, lighting,
perfect,
everything on the side.
Well, this podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Rytech High Performance Doors.
Thank you to our sponsors.
Yes, we got to give our shout out to our friends over at Rytech. Without them, this awesome production, Todd, doesn't exist, man. And we can't edit how beautiful we look and AI robot some hair on you. That's fine. We'll figure it out. I'm sure there's a filter. We got you, man. So one of our segments on the show is a cool moment, and Rytech is
always sponsored, and Rytech is today's sponsor. So you've been in the industry, like you said, since basically out of school. Do you have a cool moment or a cool story that, it's just that you want to share, or maybe it's solidified like, oh, I'm definitely in the right industry. This is definitely where I want to build my career, that you'd be wanting to share with our listeners?
I think for me, it was back when I started FlexSpace. I brought over something new to the US that was basically unheard of and unknown. And I felt like it was the right thing to do. And I felt like it was applicable to what we needed, even at that time. So there was a lot of risk there, and, not recognizing, again, how resistant people in technology would be. But, I would go back to, so I mentioned earlier, my friend Tony Leo, the two of us, I took him over to England to see some operators using mobile racking in 3PL environments, cold storage environments. And I can recall, going into the first facility and him walking in and shock and awe and sort of like pressing a button and watching it move. And later at dinner that night, he said, I knew within the first 5 minutes, this thing would work for us.
Yeah.
There was no snake oil to it. But, it's kind of like,
awesome.
Once you, and then, it's kind of one thing when you take the risk to basically bring some of value to the industry and try to help people take a leap forward. It's one thing when you do that. But it's another thing when you're able to really recognize and see that it truly has, helped people, densify their facilities and make better economics out of it. So there's one thing to preach on it, but it's another thing once it goes in, it doesn't work or something, it's like, there's a lot of reputational risk, and there's a lot invested into, your whole livelihood. A lot of this is all built on trust and people taking a leap of faith with us. And, and now it's really not even about the product. It's about really that reputation and that who's going to be there when you need them. Right. I mean, these things are great. All this technology is great as long as you've got people to rely on and support it when you need it, because people don't stop shipping groceries. It's that's going to keep going and going and going. So it's important that everything's moving and grooving and making it happen. So
that's it.
Yeah. Well,
so it's really it's a service-based business built on trust and reputation, and we take a lot of pride in what we do and who we do it for, and I've truly appreciated all the partners that have believed in us, and I know you guys can feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, speaking of reputation too, congratulations on being a top workplace in South Carolina this current year. Did you envision ever seeing your company there when you were starting it?
I didn't, but it's funny. It's I remember picking up a paper. It was like a one of your local business papers, and seeing a list of these top workplaces. This is back when I was renting a little office out of an insurance agent's back room, which is a great story for another day. But anyway, I picked up this paper that had been shipped to them and saw that, and really it set some goals to basically get on those lists. So I will say, like, you know, back to the, you know, people do business with people, right? I mean, it's not just the customers, it's the people on the front lines. You guys mentioned your guys in the field. You know, nothing happens if you don't have people that like surround themselves around the vision, and you invest in them and like teach and train and coach and work with them to be successful. So it's one thing for me to have a great idea or a bad idea even, but it's another thing when like you can get people around that and start moving, you know, mountains to make things happen. And so even back to the customer, I've always sort of just put others ahead of myself and really look to watch other people be successful, and knowing that ultimately someday, somehow, you know, it'll transact and, you know, do something good for me.
That's freaking awesome. Congrats on that. That's badass.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Thank you. Top workplaces for leadership.
They got both. They got top workplaces in South Carolina, and then also top workplaces for leadership. So
damn,
a
Todd.
lot of accolades.
Yeah.
Impressive, man. Congrats, dude. Love what you built.
I didn't get any bronze stars or anything, but
hey, man, I didn't either. But I tell you what, we should have got bronze stars for our NAIOP panel we did.
It was a phenomenal. That was honest.
I mean, we got no gold stars for that.
You know, no, we did. But I'll tell you, it was a great event. Yeah,
that was a great event. 100%.
For an inaugural, like first time out of the box. I mean, a big organization, and they've done a lot of these things, but very well attended, very, you know, high quality attendance.
For sure.
Well run, good content,
very good content.
Yeah. So that was great.
Absolutely. We talk all the time, and we'll always talk about, you know, we always don't have a lot of time to talk. Let me put it that way. So, you know, we see each other, we kind of talk, blah, blah, blah. It's quick. And we're always just so busy, right? We're going all these places. You and I are both, right? Todd and Jenna and I are at these conferences, and we see each other at GCCA or SEBA, and it's, you know, hey, what's up? You know, quick shot of tequila, go on and do our thing. Right. I mean, but to have a chance to sit down and really learn your story, and this platform was created by Jenna and I to give guys like you who created a phenomenal product, has a phenomenal business, you're just changing the game.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear your story in more detail. And for that, we thank you for that. It's awesome. Definitely your entire story is cool. That's your cool moment, man. It's just all that's cool. All right. It's awesome. But as far as what you're doing now, I mean, even being a co-founder of FlexCold and what you guys are doing there, it's very, very cool. So
if people want to learn more, if they want to know a little bit more about either FlexSpace or FlexCold, like where would they go for information about that?
So there's obviously FlexCold.com. There's FlexSpace360.com. You know, obviously always welcome to get in touch with us, and, you know, any other, that's probably the easiest way to just throw it out there, but always happy to help and be a helper, you know, in other areas, and steer them in directions. As you guys know, it's an industry full of, you know, do's and don'ts and must haves and must nots, you know, so it's, you know, trying to help educate people on, you know, the options to consider, you know, what they should be looking at. So
sure,
we're learning every day, and people have taught us, and we look forward to paying it forward and teach others.
Yeah.
Sure.
That is what I love about our industry, is that people genuinely want to help each other.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yes, there's competition, but people generally want to like just learn and help and grow each other in this industry. That's one thing that's been a common theme we've noticed.
Yeah. And there's, you know, competition is good, but it's kind of like you have the good competition of like people that you guys respect, we respect, you know, just
totally
everybody kind of respect. Then you have others that kind of helicopter in for a quick buck and, helicopter out. It's kind of like, all of a sudden it's like that face has changed and that face changed. It's a company, right? It's not people. And that's where it really gets back to is like when you're investing this kind of money and you are like on the hook for whatever you do for a long time or, your reputation forever, right? It's incredibly important to make sure you've partnered with the right people because these things can be bumpy right out of the start, along the journey, or way down the road after the fact. And I don't stress enough that people are like, it's like these are good people that will absolutely steer you in the right direction, regardless of what you transact or not.
Yeah, I can attest to that, my friend.
That goes back to like kind of when I got in this industry is like what really was attractive was one is I could relate with the people and it was a relatable group of people that you could really do things with and have friendships and have a lot of fun in. And secondly, it was just frankly, it was a ton of opportunity to improve. And like, it's now I see more than ever before, and that's the cool thing is like, as you keep learning and growing, you're thinking like, oh my goodness, it's like a field full of birds, you're just sitting there. There's lots of ways to cut out a piece and like really focus and help drive a better mousetrap.
Absolutely. I think Jen and I called a competitor within our first year of our company, be like, hey man, what do you do about this? And they're happy to help.
Yeah. Where?
We won't drop any names, man. All right. We won't do that. No, it's all good, man. Well, we see you all the time at these conferences. Let me ask you and tell the audience, what's your favorite conference of the year that you attend?
I mean, historically, I've really enjoyed the IRW.
Sure, absolutely.
As far as like
which is the new GCCA,
right? Correct. So yeah, I really enjoyed the people, and then also just the business that you can create there. But there's a lot of we've done a lot of trade shows from. PAC Expo and ProMats and Modex, big expos to things like this and cheese and, dairy and, lots of more frozen foods. And so there's a lot of good stuff out there. And, you kind of also find like, how do we as an organization, how do we do best? And as far as like showing up and capturing, leads or getting in front of people and being able to make something spark, so I would say, historically, I do feel like I've built sort of my career out of the GCCA. And
for sure. I think a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people have, for sure. What's your favorite location? Before I get into heckling you over my very fun this or that questions, I'm just kind of prying a little bit, warming you up a little bit. Do you have a favorite location for any of these conferences? Like, man, I'm excited to go to that state or that city or that town.
Generally speaking, I think Amelia Island has been pretty good.
Yeah. We did that for like a day and a half.
Yeah. And then they evacuated us.
Yeah. I think that's been a pretty good one. Southern California is a long way from here, but
it
is.
A good spot. It's way out there, but I like Southern California. I think we did one at Laguna Beach, which was a good spot.
It's a great spot. Yeah, for sure.
It's far though.
Yes.
Yeah. Heck yeah, it is. Well, is there anything, we want to be cognizant of your time. Is there anything that you want to share that you might have not spoke about for FlexSpace or FlexCold right now? Anything at all you want to talk about? Did we get it all? Anything at all?
Good. Yeah, no, totally. It's good. I do appreciate the opportunity, and I think what you guys are doing is very cool, and it's cool timing. And
I love it. I love it so much.
Timing, I like it.
I chuckle at every one of your emails that you send that you have it.
They are good. They are very good, and we appreciate that. So
we do. Thank you.
This is the last part of the podcast where I get to heckle you with the this or that questions that are sponsored by our friends at RideTech. So Chase Deaton did not write these questions. In fact, Chat GTP wrote all the this or that questions for this one. Speaking of AI, I was running out of good ones, and I'm like, man, I'm going to ask the robot, and the robot gave me some pretty funny ones.
There are some good ones.
There are some good ones. So, yeah. So
thank you, RideTech and AI.
Are you ready for this, man? Because we are going to learn a lot about you right now. We're going to learn a lot about you right now. Serious question though, like toilet paper, right? So you're going to the bathroom, you got toilet paper, and the roll is like this, right? Over the top or under. What do you prefer?
It's over the top.
It's over the top. Thank you. It's got to be over the top. Thank you. Okay, that's actually a question.
That is one.
That is a question.
I was bracing. I was prepared for a scrunch or fold.
Man. Like a cool design.
When I was bracing, that's where I thought you were going.
Yeah. No, God.
That's funny.
Okay.
All right.
Gosh, I mean, AI is really.
It gets better.
It gets better. Pancakes, syrup pools, or syrup drizzle?
Drizzle.
Oh, man. See, I just like to all over the place, man.
Wow.
Morning routine. Are you an alarm snoozer or you jump out of bed?
Jump out of bed.
All right. I know you dance. Are you like dad moves dancing or are you disco fever dancing?
Yeah, I think I better take a seat.
You're sitting on that one. All right. So, all right. Yeah. You have superpowers here, right? So being able to fly, but you're afraid of heights, or you have the ability to be invisible, but you sneeze a lot.
Oh, I said fly, but I think invisible would be pretty cool.
It would be. Absolutely. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
A snowball fighter, sandcastle builder?
I think I'm a snowball fighter.
Tropical beach laziness or mountain hiking adventure?
I can go with the mountain hiking adventure.
Dive in or test the water with your toes first?
I'd dive in.
Oh, look at you. I'm gonna like tap the toe and be like, all right, I'm all in. You know, like
you are. You do.
I want to touch it. Yeah. See what I'm getting in.
I'll do either. It depends on what I feel like, you know.
There you go.
I want to ask the last one.
You do it. Yeah, you do it. You do it.
We have this argument in our house. So you're eating pasta. Are you a spaghetti like twirler and slurper, or do you fork and knife your spaghetti and eat it?
So I'm a twirler.
Okay, me too.
I'm a twirler, but I definitely don't like to slurp it. So
I don't like the slurping part. I'm a twirler. He cuts it, and I'm like, why it?
Oh God,
That's funny though. I hadn't heard that one before. That's a good one.
All right. Go back and visit the dinosaurs or jump ahead in time and meet the robots?
I think I'd jump ahead.
Yeah, me too, man. I jump ahead. I don't want to get eaten by it. I've seen Jurassic Park.
I knew you were.
I don't need to go back there and get eaten by a T-Rex. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Are you a box and box or a ground up construction project guy?
I'm definitely ground up.
Oh, layup. It's a layup for you. Are you cold beer or cold drink?
Depends on where I'm at, but I guess I'm probably more of a cold beer guy.
Here you go. Are you a Miller Lite guy or a Bud Light guy?
I'd probably go Miller Lite.
You passed. Congrats. Come on, that's funny. That's funny. Ping pong or air hockey?
Air hockey.
Ammonia or Freon refrigeration?
I gotta go with the Freon.
Atta boy. Are you a beachside guy or poolside guy?
I think I'm more the poolside.
Okay. Morgan Wallen or Garth Brooks?
Morgan Wallen, I think.
Justin Bieber or Justin Timberlake?
I think I'm Timberlake.
My man. I like it. Yeah. Well, man, that's all the questions I have for you, man. That was awesome. Good. This is a fun podcast, man. Todd, you killed it. Again, to all our listeners, thank you. You can download this app. You can listen to it on your iPhone on the podcast. Listen to it in your car. You can listen to it when you're dipping your toes in the water before you jump in. Just don't take your phone with you.
Yeah, definitely don't do that. You've had to pay for one too many of those.
Are we done here?
Nope, not yet.
We can watch how pretty we are on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Hey, the more you guys subscribe and share this, this helps all of us. This helps propel this podcast up to more faces in our industry. It helps people learn about different technologies and people. And man, we're just here to spread the love, Todd. That's all we're trying to do. Spread the word, spread the love.
Love it.
Thank you to Rytech once again for sponsoring today's podcast. And thank you, Todd, for sharing about FlexSpace and FlexCold and where things are going with that. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
You appreciate the opportunity, and you guys have a good one. Thanks.
Yeah, man. And until next time, my friend. All right. We will see you guys soon. Thank you guys for listening.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.